Today I would like to talk to you about hallucinations and BPD. So kind of have checked into it a little bit, just the Reader's Digest version. Of course, a lot of studies. It gives you a lot of links into other studies to where you'll really be falling down the rabbit hole. But they do say that there's so much that's unknown about borderline personality disorder and its link to different hallucinations or um, psychotic tendencies. Now, they do suggest that 20 to 80% of people with BPD do, in fact, have hallucinations, but that could be different outside. They have noted that it could be much less outside of their case studies. And then, of course, those who tend to lean more towards other psychotic disorders would have a higher link. Something I found interesting, but yet not surprising, is that those with hallucinations marked much higher, not only for the other psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia, which BPD is closely linked to, but also anxiety, depression, and loneliness. Which, again, that does make sense once you say it, that those who are suffering from that most are going to more than likely experience some hallucinations. So, what kind of sparked my interest was, I think this was like a month and a half ago, that I saw a Grey's Anatomy episode, and Richard Webber ends up having a hallucination while he is at a medical conference, and he was going to do a speech about his cancer-seeking pen. And so he's in his room, and his separated wife, Catherine, comes and is happy to see him. They kind of have a happy reunion. They spend the day together. She helps him write his speech and, helps bring up points. And he feels like he's really on to a cure for cancer itself, even more than just what the pen could do. Anyway, then when he is out on the stage and he starts showing his notes, it's all gibberish. And he has a lot of half thoughts and nothing's quite making sense, and he's stumbling around. And they show Catherine is back in Seattle at Gray Sloan Hospital to watch the speech. And then, so as a viewer, then you're all of a sudden privy to he's been hallucinating. And they set it up to where, it's good, but it was a lot to take in emotionally. And I remember just saying, no, because it was too much for me to handle. That heartbreak of the beauty of the moments that he spent being reunited with his wife, and it was all a lie. And I was a little bit mad at the writers that they would, make me happy with them being reunited, and then, not only did it not happen, but he's completely losing it. And for those of us who have felt like we've lost a grip on reality, it's really painful then to see somebody else go through it. So that episode was really hard. And so then I started to bring up in the only time that I ever had a really vivid hallucination. So now I have never had any alcohol or done any drugs, so I have not been mentally impaired. The most, it's been NyQuil, and I only did that once, and it was horrendous. I do not like feeling that groggy. And then when I was pregnant, I had to be on magnesium. Just as awful. Only you really aren't allowed to walk because you're in the hospital. Anyways, so just being dizzy is too much for me. So I, having not dealt with any mental impairment, and I'm not sure if this even makes a difference, but I would think that then all the more I wouldn't be used to a blur between reality and fiction, but at the same time, it is something that I have faced. So, I don't know. So, the one time that I did have a vivid hallucination, and I don't know if anyone can kind of relate, um, it was a few months, I think, after my first husband had left me. I loved him dearly, and it was extremely hard. We had just moved to a new state, and yeah, it was a hard move, and it proved to be too much for us. So once he did get a job, then he ended up leaving me. So a few months after he had left and stuff, I remember laying on the couch in my living room, and I was turned towards the inside of the couch, and I never liked going to bed. I always just wanted to be out in the living room because night is very lonely to me. I do not like it. I felt final, and so I couldn't bear it a lot of times. My little sister was living with me at the time, but she would like to go up to her bedroom and stuff, and I would just have the TV play or whatever and just lay out in the living room because the loneliness was just too much. And so I was laying towards the inside of the chair or couch, and it was like all of a sudden he was right there, and it was our couch, but it was our bed. And he just kind of smiled and looked at me the way he always did. And he said, "Hi, honey." And I remember just all of a sudden getting really caught in sadness because I was so happy to see him. But I also knew it wasn't real. So, I'm sorry. I don't know why. Okay, those of us with BPD, we get very emotionally attached to things. So, unfortunately, I can't talk about a situation without emotionally then reliving it. So, unfortunately, as I'm explaining it, I'm also right back into that moment. I do think that's a cool thing about BVD, being so emotionally attached to something, just because then memories are so much more vivid, I think. And it really helps my memory, but at the same time, you go through more hard times than what you would like to. Okay, sorry about that. Kids just woke up from their nap. So anyway, so yes, it can be a little bit difficult then emotionally being put right back in a situation. But anyway, so I was upset, and then he said, "Well, what's the matter?" And I told him, "Well, you don't love me anymore, and that you're not here." And he said, "Yes, I love you. Why would you even say that?" And that's when I said, "Because you're not here." And then it just kind of faded away. Rather quickly. That it was like slowly he faded, but then in an instant, everything was gone, and I was in the living room on the couch, alone, staring into the back of the couch. And with how vivid it was, it just killed me for the longest time because I had never had such a vivid hallucination. Thankfully, never again. Um, I've had very vivid dreams um, that then when I wake up, I have to really sit there and pick apart what is real, what was the dream. And so that's kind of frustrating because I'm not sure how many people have to do that. And those are times of high stress that I have the super vivid dreams and I have to really think on what is real and what is not. Um, and it was interesting reading about the different types of hallucinations. Now, they said that they want to phase out using the word pseudo hallucinations, which would be internal hallucinations. So they talked about hallucinations coming from inside of you or hallucinations outside coming to you. And I thought that was interesting because I had never thought of that distinction. Because the ones coming within you, or the pseudo hallucinations, those you would know are not real, so I think that would just be kind of disregarded. Like hearing music. I've I've done that so many times. Hearing a voice, hearing music. Yeah, that happens all the time. They also talked about flashes of images, and that I'm gonna have to think on because I was only really reading up on it today, so it would be fresh in my mind. So that's something that's very interesting, and definitely an interesting thought to explore about images flashing and stuff like that for hallucinations that come from within. And then, of course, the external hallucinations being more of it's super vivid, you're in a new place, or you see something that's not there. And I've had that, but only like in flashes, not where it was super vivid and almost inescapable. So, and again, that when I had mine, that completely coincides with the higher point of depression, anxiety, loneliness, which is a little bit scary if I ever go through times of that are comparable to that peak in my life, that then I get to look forward to some possible hallucinations. But it's definitely interesting to read more about it, just because it's not something I had heard about a lot, being associated with borderline personality disorder. So then seeing it be more closely related and more common than what I was thinking it would be, roughly that 20 to 80%. I mean, that's a big deal. That's definitely something to then be more cautious of or explore it and stuff. And it's good for the medical world to explore it, just so then they know how to try to treat people better. So then I think something that also helps is knowing more about the internal image flashing music and stuff. Some of the more subtle things, to be bringing that up in therapy, just so that then there's something more for the psychology community to build from. The more information they have is better. Of course, I have to say, anytime I've met a new therapist and they ask about hallucinations and stuff, I'm just like, oh, not really. Just one pretty much. So, I mean, even within myself, I need to learn more about these things so that then I understand myself, but then also so I can contribute to the future health and well-being of those with BPD. So, and something else that they mentioned, which I'll bring up real quick before I finish this, was that it is often left up to the patient on whether it is coming from the outside or if it's an internal hallucination, which I thought was very interesting, which also creates a whole new gray area because I don't know about some of you, but I really like to have everything well defined and labeled for me. So then to say, okay, well, you tell us. I feel like, well, how do I know? I'm not a doctor. I mean, I wasn't even so sure that, hearing music playing was a hallucination. I just thought, okay, it's just goofy little saying, like your brain is just, having a little glitch or something, which I suppose that's what a hallucination would be. But still, easy to just dismiss some things that actually might be a very interesting part of your diagnosis. And can always be helpful to know more about yourself. So, anyways, that's why we'll talk about hallucinations. Thanks for watching. Bye.